If you ask any influencer if they love doing ads, their answer will probably be no. The rising trend about de-influencing is an interesting topic that I really want to cover today, so let's get into it. Before we get started, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Making these videos takes so much time for my team and myself, so it really means a lot when you support and just leave a comment. De-influencing is a rising trend that has risen on TikTok in the last few months. The trend composes of individuals who are quote-unquote de-influencing or raising awareness of the over-consumerist lifestyles. Many influencers have been engaging in the topic around de-influencing, about the ways in which they're making money and the ways in which they're making products. And the truth is that many young people in society are really sick and tired of seeing ads. When we are living in an economic, housing, health, other multitudes of crises, it's almost a slap to the face for the general consumer to say, buy this product to make you feel better. And I'm not trying to say that the influencers themselves are the sole issue. It's the fact that how corporations themselves have been hijacking a lot of brand messages from influencers to sell these types of products. When it comes to greenwashing and the rise of sustainability, one thing to note is that corporations now are shifting their mindsets from working with these sustainable green influencers to mainstream influencers. And I've really been disappointed when I've seen a lot of my favorite mainstream influencers that don't really talk about the environment or focus on comedy or lifestyle or traveling start to work with these brands, and they love the term green that is used. I mean, one example I remember seeing is an influencer that started to work with H&M and saying that this is their green recycled clothing, and I said I could not believe that many influencers are getting swayed by greenwashing. And this is something that we're going to be seeing in the upcoming years, is influencers that are not environmentally or sustainability focused are going to be the prime markets to be in the quote-unquote sustainable field. And I think sustainability has become such a buzzword that all of us know it now, that even if you Google and search the terminology of sustainability, it's increased over the last few years. And a lot of people have shifted from going from this quote-unquote zero waste lifestyle to sustainable lifestyle, or quote-unquote imperfect environmentalism, and that itself showcases the need for education to be taught for influencers. As a sustainability content creator that focuses on communicating climate science, I think when it comes around de-influencing, there needs to be this active acknowledgement from all the influencers in the sustainability landscape that yes, we all sell products, yes, we all contribute to consumerism. Now, whether we talk about over-consumerism, I think we need to start to kind of go back to say what influencers are loyal to brands, because influencers are not loyal to brands. They are loyal to the money, and money speaks for itself. And after myself that's been in this influencer industry for the last 3 years, I've gotten a lot of contracts dropped from corporations just because I realized that some of it may have not been aligned to my values, or slash the fact that there's so much allegations that come out from brands. Like if you look into Tinks that, now found that there's microplastics or some type of chemicals that are bad for the body for people who menstruate, or you look at 7th Generation when they had this compostable packaging and you open it, it had this like plastic pouch. There is so many things that are now coming to light with consumer advocacy, and I think as influencers, we should have the responsibility when we're practicing de-influencing is that yes, that they challenge us, but they actually challenge the corporations and the systems, because at the end of the day, I know that many Black, Indigenous people of color that are influencers, I'm not trying to say that they are evil people or that they don't care, but like they should have an active mindset of like working with corporations that have the best. But I also know that not everyone has the privilege to do that, and I know that it comes from my own end of the privilege I have, is that I recognized that I didn't want to stay in the influencer landscape. Like I wanted to diversify from doing public speaking to consulting and just working on offset projects. And I think social media has really relied on this route of selling products in excess to being shipped from the global south to the global north so we can consume them. And it is very horrifying to see not the influencers doing this, but the fact of how much we've become reliant on free products. One thing I want to talk about is PR products and de-influencing, right? PR products are such a huge issue. I'm going to be honest here with you all, is that the first year I was influencing back in 2021, I remember getting so many PR packages. A lot of them were either shirts, cups, reusable bottles, just irrelevant items that were given in these quote-unquote gift bags. And I really think they're not worth our time. And I think a lot of us become so swayed to say yes to free products because we've never gotten maybe a lot of free stuff in life. But honestly, I'm so disgusted by the amount of products I actually took on my own end. And examining that, I made sure that I say no a lot of the times. The only times I say yes to PR products now is either if it's skincare, because I'm allergic to a lot of skincare products, or food products that can actually be eaten, right? That are vegan and everything that works for me. But in terms of like clothes or like reusable bottles or like certain items, I always say no because I have so many reusable water bottles. I have so many shirts that were given to me. And I think there is this glamorous message of whenever there's film premieres or documentary premieres of giving free stuff to people, but it's like, we do not need that. Why are we continuously doing that? And de-influencing, in my opinion, it doesn't really serve a larger purpose to address the systemic issues about creating pathways for consumer advocacy and education to sue brands for lying for greenwashing messages. And instead, I think it just reinforces this ideation of the individual and the individual not really doing enough or just raising awareness to be mindful of these products. Now, de-influencing is also evolving within its own niche. I mean, I saw videos on TikTok of people that are de-influencers and they start to showcase products that they like to use that are sustainable. And I think that really misses the point. And the lack of education from just the mainstream influencer culture is that they don't fully understand the definition, right? De-influencing to me, right, goes back into this idea of we cannot live in a very over-consumer society and giving and showcasing access products that really people do not need anymore, right? Like if you ask someone, hey, do you need a reusable water? I swear to God, people will say, I already have 5 reusable waters. If you ask someone, hey, do you want a free cotton tote bag? People will say, I have 20 of those cotton tote bags. If you ask someone, hey, like, do you have a metal straw? People will be like, I have 5 metal straws. Like, do you see that there is now this general acceptance that yes, people are trying to be more sustainable, yes, they're trying to be more conscious of these decisions, but we really do not need that anymore. Like, we really don't. And I don't think that my anger, frustration comes directly at these influencers either. It just comes from the fact that the marketing messages behind these brands are so repetitive. Like, we know as a Gen Z consumer and advocate, like, I know that these messages have been recycled over and over. So when people ask me like, well, what can we do to sustain our influencer career while de-influencing? I think that is the hardest part, right? There's no clear answer to that. I think some people are fit to just sell products and, you know, have this lifestyle blog life, whatever they want. But to me, that doesn't make me happy. I realized that when I created my account, it wasn't to become an influencer. It wasn't to sell products. I do not want to be 40 years old selling shampoo bars when I was doing that when I was 24. Like, I want to make sure that there's a pathway for everyone to not rely on just selling products and they're paid for just celebrating their eco-friendly lifestyle, or they're celebrated for just promoting education or talking about funding models for climate solutions. Like, these are the things that I want, but we cannot get there until we start to talk more conversations with brands. Brands, what they need to do is invest in storytelling. You know, during 2020 and during the pandemic and murder of George Floyd, a lot of brands were committing to like anti-racism, diversity initiatives. They were investing in sustainability initiatives. They were saying like, you know, we're gonna move forward and change the culture. What happened a year or 2 years later? None of that, but that was promised from a lot of corporations of the millions of dollars to go into influencers of color. None of that went to Black influencers. And instead, those corporations started to hire more and went back to their quote-unquote messaging of diversity, which is just hiring white women to promote products. And that to me is frustrating because the amount of influencer wealth that is locked and loaded within certain races is highly inequitable, right? Black and indigenous and brown influencers and people of color influencers are paid less in this industry. And I was researching on a data set that said that the average influencer makes around $64,000 on the minimum end to $260,000, the average, right? Obviously, I know other influencers that make more, but that is usually the general consensus of people who are influencing today. And I would have to admit that yes, I do make a six-figure salary, but it's still not enough in this economy that I live in, and I don't really feel like brands understand that when I'm asking to be funded for my work, I'm asking, help me fund my work so I can interview your CEOs or your sustainability managers. Help me give me a tour of your facility so I can know what's going on. Allow me to really just create content that's focused on education and have the brand just be a proud sponsor. Why is it the fact that we have to always go back to metrics and what's gonna sell, or the quote unquote the impact? I use this as an example because one time I was in a conversation with a brand and they said, we love your work, we want to hire you to do all these things. And one of the workers was the impact team, and I remember she was saying that her goal was to measure impact on social media and education, right, for climate education. I said, well, how do you do that? And she said, well, I don't know. In that call, they asked me, how do you measure impact? And I said, well, why are you asking me when you hired someone full-time to do this? And that kind of goes back to the force of brands are really, I guess, quote unquote confused of being able to execute these types of events. But it is very frustrating. I mean, every time I try to tour a sustainability company, it's either no, we're too busy, but yet they have all these fancy dinners to bring all of these white influencers to these events. And I'm like, how is that spreading sustainability? How is that promoting an earth-friendly lifestyle when the majority of the people who are attending are rich, privileged, white individuals? That doesn't make sense. So is de-influencing just a trend on TikTok, or is it actually something that's going to be implemented? I mean, I find it really difficult to say that de-influencing will stay relevant. I think it goes back to the fact of a lot of mainstream influencers, I don't know if they're challenging the dominant models of cultures that exist there, because I don't operate as one, but I would say that I'd hope that people understand that de-influencing isn't just about raising general education to be a better consumer. It's actually addressing the fact that capitalism is draining natural resources to produce our products, and this capitalistic system that we are in today is rooted in white supremacy, in which Black, Indigenous, people of color, and non-human animals are literally being exploited in the global south and even the global north countries to create these cheap, quote-unquote accessible / green products. And there needs to be this more acknowledgement with de-influencing, is that it's not just about admitting okay, I sell products. It's about addressing and being anti-capitalistic. It's about knowing that greenwashing is going to rise as industries are going to want to target young influencers to sell their quote-unquote recycled clothing, or they're going to be wanting to promote these products as sustainable. This is where we need to have this understanding that we need to overturn the existing systems. And I think a lot of influencers are definitely scared of that, of challenging that system, because that means that your own source of revenue is cut off. And that is scary, right, for a lot of influencers. But I think that needs to be a conversation of we cannot rely anymore on these models. And so the question is an influencer career sustainable? I don't think it is, because when we are going to hit a level of crises in the world where it's already hitting us in the global north, but it's going to continue impacting us in future years, there's not going to be anyone wanting to be an influencer. No one's going to be wanting to buy a product when they don't have clean water, clean air, or being able to grow their own food. What people are going to want is culture, connection, and humanity. And I'm not saying that people who promote it, or myself either, don't care. It's just a hard conversation to say a lot of us have so much value to bring to this world, and yet we're not paid equitably. And it is a very parasitic system that we live in today about de-influencing, being this showcase of liberation for cultures. But I don't know, I think in mainstream conversations, it needs to be hit through accessible language. It needs to be hit through these conversations. And I think everyone should just come together and just address the fact that de-influencing maybe isn't the best term to use, and instead we should be using a white supremacist capitalistic system that is draining our land. De-influencing is a really great conversation starter, I think, to try to talk about the belly of the beast, which is over-consumerism. But I do think that everyone here can relate to, as a general audience, that a lot of us are just tired of doing ads. And I know a lot of you all here watching this video are tired of me doing ads. And I get it. Every time you're just like, it doesn't seem authentic. And I think I like to say that, you know, there are certain brands I work with that I really love. If I had the option not to work for brands and got the money I needed, would I be working with brands? No. I honestly no, and I admit that because I don't believe that I need to sell my community things. What I want to give them is education and knowledge, but we don't measure that as profitability because that's free open access. We always think about private closed access information being valuable. We don't think about our existence being valuable. We just think about what is it, the monetary value that we can give back to a corporation. And so we need to remember that corporations are non-human logos. They do not exist. Critiquing corporations does not make you a bad person. It actually makes you a better person to understand that the ways in which we've humanized corporations is quite disturbing in our society because it makes it seem that corporations are almost excused for their toxic behaviors, and that's not okay. I think we need to come together to have these conversations. So what are your thoughts on de-influencing? Do you really think that it's a rising trend for now, or do you think it's going to die? I'm currently really interested in exploring those depths and dimensions with you all, so let me know what your thoughts are on de-influencing, and make sure to comment, like, and subscribe for more content in the future.